Hey comic fans, welcome to the Comic Fix, your one-stop shop for every single thing DC Comics to some creator-owned, a little bit Marvel. My name's David, and welcome to the Fix. Now in this video, I'm going to be doing some of my DC comic reviews, starting with Amethyst, Swords of Sorcery, Amethyst, issue number 1. Now, when the whole third wave was announced, this was a book I was not looking forward to whatsoever. I figured that it was just going to be a very bland and uninteresting fantasy setting type of book. Let me tell you, I am completely wrong. This book was amazing. Every single thing from the artwork to the writing to the world building that happens in this first issue. Well, actually it's the second issue, since the first issue was the zero issue that came out last month. So the storyline is that Amy, who is the main antagonist, has just turned 17 when her mom, who's going to show her her family home or where they came from, opens a door to another dimension. What awaits in this strange world? Well, you just have to read to find out. So as I said, there's some great moments in this book where Amy, she first comes into this Amethyst world and all hell breaks loose. These unknown soldiers are attacking Amy and her mother. And the mother has been training Amy from a very young age to wield a sword and how to use it. But there was an amazing point in there where Amy takes her first life. And at that point, it was very human. I mean, every single thing, just from when you see her slicing the guy's throat, you just look at her eyes, and it is amazing to see the emotion that's coming out of there. As you see right here, she's fighting for her life, she cuts the guy's throat, and then you see the reaction to it. And it was so surprising to see that. The writer and the artist are definitely working together to tell this story. And the story does not hold anything back. There's so much violence in this thing. And it just enriches this fantasy world that we're in. And also with that, we get to learn the different houses of the whole gem world. And with that, it almost felt like you were reading one of my favorite books. What is it? Game of Thrones, or Tales of Fire and Ice. And when I was reading Amethyst, all I was thinking about was one of my favorite series. So it was really cool to read. And it was funny though, I actually gave my friend the first 2 issues just a test, just to read them. He doesn't read comics, but he reads fantasy novels, and he really enjoyed it. Now the thing that I think is going really against this whole entire book is just the way that they're marketing it. It's just, when you see that at the comic book store, would you instantly say, I gotta have this? Because for me, no. When I was hearing all about what the series is going to be about, it interested me. But then I saw some of the artwork and I was just like, wow, how uninteresting can this be? But let me just tell you, the world building in this one issue is just really good. The artwork's really good. And there's so much emotion in the eyes that the artist does that it just makes this book so much better. And it's one of the biggest surprises in the whole third wave of books that came out. Because if you see my previous reviews of all the third wave books that came out last week, I just shit all over them. I think the best I gave out of them, as a score, was a 1.5. But just know, Amethyst is for real. And I hope this series takes off and becomes a classic. Because it definitely has the world building to be that, and all it needs is us as readers to go and pick up this book. Now the only downside is that DC's having it as a $3.99 book. And people like me, I would prefer to pay $2.99 and just cut out that backup story that's in there. And if DC does that, cuts out the backup story, just drops to $2.99, people are going to be more willing to try it. And I do think that $3.99 price tag is definitely going to be the downfall for this whole entire title. I don't think it's going to succeed. But from this first issue, I think the sky's the limit for this series. Just DC just has to drop the $3.99 and let it go to $2.99 and see if people just say, oh, it's a $2.99 book and I have a light week, so I'll just try this series out. So I'm going to tell everyone out there, go pick up this series, support this series, it's awesome, and I give this one, Amethyst, issue number 1, a 5 out of 5. One of the biggest surprises of this whole entire week, and with the Zero issue was really solid, but this issue just blew it to another level. Next up is Supergirl, issue number 13. Last time we saw Tycho, which is this guy right here, Supergirl blew up his multi-trillion-dollar space station and left him as a burning carcass. And in the previous issue, we saw in there that Tycho survived. He was basically, his body was melded with this jelly type of form. And so Tycho is now a villain for Supergirl. In Tycho, in this issue, we see that he has found Supergirl's Fortress of Solitude. And he takes Supergirl there. And he's trying to get Supergirl to give control of her Fortress of Solitude to him. Now, will Supergirl be able to beat Tycho? Or will Tycho be able to take the Fortress of Solitude from Supergirl? Just have to read to find out. Now, there's one major problem I had with this issue, is that the artwork was good. I mean, I really enjoyed the artwork. The bad parts is if you see in the background's red. It's like that the whole entire issue. This whole issue takes place in one room, and you definitely tell that the artist cheated a little bit with making all the backgrounds just this average red all over the place. So I didn't really like that. I thought the whole setting in this one room was very uninteresting to look at, even though the art for the main characters was pretty well done. I really like the coloring. And I do like in this issue, we see Supergirl actually use her mind. Throughout the whole entire series, Supergirl has only been doing one thing, using her fists, nothing else. And why shouldn't she? She can't talk to anybody. I mean, all she knows is how the Kryptonian language. And an interesting thing that the writer tries to do in the series is make Tycho a good villain. And you saw that when he was at the space station when you first met him. But here, and the way that Supergirl beats him, makes you think, was this villain even really all that menacing and smart to begin with? Because the way he got beat just makes you think, you should have thought that what's going to happen. I mean, you should have seen it coming. Even I saw it coming when the first couple of pages was like, I know how this is going to end. And I'm not one of those people that goes and likes looking at the back of the page and see the last page. But I knew exactly what was coming. But there were some interesting moments where you just see Supergirl trying to use her fists and trying to use her brute force and seeing, that's not working. But then when she uses her mind, that's what I liked. But other than that, there was really nothing there for me. I mean, there was some cool character development with Supergirl, but with the whole background, it was just very uninteresting. The villain, I thought was very predictable and nothing really menacing about him whatsoever. So in the end, I'm going to give Supergirl, issue number 13, a 2.5 out of 5. There was one point, though, in there that I really liked, where Tycho, he takes the red crystal, which has Supergirl's father talking to Supergirl, relaying a message, and it has definitely consequences with what happened in Zero issue, so that was really cool to see. I'm liking these little nods to the Zero issues, so for people who did not read the Zero issue, they kind of get where the story's going, but they know that they missed something pretty big. So some of the Zero issues have actually, or some of the issue 13s have actually done that, where they had a nod to the Zero issue, but most of the DC comics have just said, blew by it, just didn't even have a little nod to it at all. And then we get Wonder Woman, issue number 13. Now, if you saw my preview video that I did a couple days ago, you knew Wonder Woman is definitely, as I thought, it's definitely going to be one of the runner-ups for the pick of the week. So, a lot has happened since issue number 12. Apollo now sits on the throne of Olympus. Hermes stole Zeus's bastard child. And Hera is now mortal. So with this issue, it's kind of a transition issue. We see Wonder Woman and her crew licking their wounds and figure out where to go next. Now what they're going to do is that they're going to go try to find Zeus's other children so that they can stop Apollo and give back Zeus's bastard. And then another interesting part I liked was the part with Apollo. Now Apollo, he went to the prophets, and just to see what's going on, the prophets tell him that one of Zeus's childs is going to kill you and take the throne of Olympus. So there's a lot of cool angles going in this issue, a lot of setup, and you get some revolution from all the stuff that's happened before. And with this series, Brian Azzarello is not writing the series for a volume. What he's doing, he's writing his thing for a whole 20, 30 issues. It's going to be a long story. Now, if you haven't read the previous 12 issues and you want to jump on, this is the perfect point to jump on. It gives you a little bit of what's happened in the previous 12 issues, so you can jump in and enjoy the story. But know that if you have not read those previous 12 issues, go back, read those things, and you'll be enriched this experience that Brian Azzarello is putting us through. And with this whole entire week, we have had 3 books that have Wonder Woman in it. And with Wonder Woman in New 52, she's easily become my favorite character in the whole DC universe. So it's nice to see her in all these books. Because previously, before the New 52, whenever Wonder Woman was in a book, I didn't really bat an eyelash, I didn't really care. But now, I actually do. So with that, Wonder Woman, it gets a 5 out of 5. I mean, there was nothing wrong with this whole entire issue. And the next issue I hear is going to be dealing with the New Gods. There's so much drama in this one, I don't want to ruin everything. So, everybody, go pick up this book. I mean, even if you're just one of those Marvel guys that says, I only read Marvel, go out, do yourself a favor, pick Wonder Woman up. If this book had a free digital copy, I would go buy that digital copy and give it to you. Be like, here you go. You go and enjoy it. That actually gives me an idea. I may do a contest where I'll give out the first I'll go buy the first volume, have a contest for whoever wants that. Because I know, I forget who he was, but he was asking me, hey, are you going to do any contests? I'm thinking that's going to be the one where I'm going to take books like Wonder Woman, the first volume, the New 52, and say, hey, who wants to be in this contest? Now, what that contest will be, I have to think about it. So, just know that that will be the prize. Next up, the kiss that was heard all around the news. That is Justice League issue number 13. Now, with Justice League, I don't really go into it expecting the greatest thing in the whole entire world. What I do expect is some really good artwork, some okay story, and some really cool action scenes. Now, do we get that in this issue? Yeah, we do. The storyline's not all that great. It's just with Cheetah and Cheetah's origin and seeing how the relationship between Wonder Woman and Superman is dealing with. That's basically about it. Nothing else there. Now, the great points in this whole entire book is there's a point in there where Cheetah and Wonder Woman are fighting. And what it looks like is that Cheetah and Wonder Woman are fighting in the jungle. We see some awesome artwork by Tony Daniels. And then, out of this whole big old fight, we notice that they were not fighting in the jungles at all. They were fighting in a park. Now, I don't know where this park's at, but I gotta say, it must be an interesting place to live in the DC universe, especially in a place like Metropolis or Gotham, where all these bad guys are coming around and ruining a really good day. So I thought that was a really cool scene. When I was just reading it, I was just like, that's pretty funny. And I gotta say, Tony Daniels, his art just breathed some new life into this series. Because Jim Lee is a great artist. Don't get me wrong, I love his art. But I just tell a different pace and a different enthusiasm to this series with Tony Daniels. I mean, the art in here was just gorgeous. So much detail and everything. And there was a really cool part where you see Superman and he's in the satellite. And when he's around the Justice League people, he's not standing like a regular human being. He's always just floating there. And I mean, it's just so cool to see. And it just makes him seem like a god compared to all these other people, like you see right here. And it's just so cool to see. Because I was thinking, I was like, man, Superman's a badass when he does that. He just hovers over people and just feels like a god. But there's one point that I really did not like about this issue. There's a point in there where Wonder Woman and Superman are talking about their kiss. And it felt like something I would see out of a CW show. Just a teen drama that did not do anything for me. Yes, they kissed. I mean, they did. But they're making a bigger deal out of it than it actually should be. And I did love the points in there with Steve Rogers or Steve Trevor. Because Steve Rogers, he's in Marvel. Yeah, Captain America's in here. No, Steve Trevor. So there's some good stuff to be had. There was some really mellow drama in there that uninterests me completely. I mean, just reading those, I was like, I gotta get back to the action. This is an issue that knows exactly what it is. It's just a fun summer blockbuster that doesn't have really any much substance to it. So with that, I'm going to give Justice League issue number 13 a 2.5 out of 5. I expect a lot more from it. Like, I want more. I don't expect more because I know exactly what I'm getting into. But I just want that little extra effort from Jeff Johns. Because you definitely can tell that Tony Daniels is putting his effort in there and breathing a new life to the series. Jeff Johns, I feel that he's not right for this series. I would actually love to see James Robinson, see what he would do with the series, because he's doing a masterful job with the Earth 2. But Jeff Johns, I just feel like he's not breathing any new life into the Justice League book, and it's a book I don't look forward to every single month. So, with that, you got 2.5 out of 5. Expect a lot more from Justice League. You know, it was supposed to be that flagship title from the New 52, but overall, it just lacked a lot. I mean, there's a little positive in there, and it's amazing though to see what little bit of tweaking that Tony Daniels does to this book that just breathes some new life into it. And next up, Blue Beetle, issue number 13. So Blue Beetle has been teleported by OMAC, which we saw in the Justice League International Annual number 1, to the homeworld of Reach. Now this homeworld is the Scarab's planet, and Blue Beetle has to get home. So he's in an unknown environment, and how he gets through everything is really funny to see. But the bad of this book, the artwork I felt was very bland. The only cool things about the artwork that I saw, that any interesting parts, is with Blue Beetle's eyes. I mean, there's so much emotion in his eyes. Just the way that his eyes are turning almost bug-like, which I really enjoyed about the series. And it just gave that little extra emotion in there, which I did not expect. And a bad thing is that the villain in here is this person that was part of the Zero issue, which I didn't read Blue Beetle's Zero issue. I didn't feel like there was any need to read it. Well, the person that was in the Zero issue that originally had the Scarab that Jaime has, before he died, he buried himself with the Scarab. And supposedly the scarab kind of transformed his body, and the carcass of the person animated when Blue Beetle got on to reach. And he was like, I need to go and get back my scarab. When this all happened, it was really dumb, and just like, you're just looking and you're just like, wow, it seems like something on a Saturday morning cartoon. The worst part is where this bad guy right over here is stalking Jaime, and you see him stalking him, right? And you're like, okay, cool, I get what's going on. And where is it? And then you see him stalking him, and then you see him jump at him, and the door closes, and you just see the villain just go pop right onto the door. I would have loved it if once that bam happened, if the panels would have went to Jaime and Jaime's new ally, just look at it and be like, what was that? But no, we don't get any of that. We just see him go off, and it would just felt like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon. There was very little to like in this issue, and I could see exactly why DC's deciding to drop and cancel this book. There's nothing really there for you. It was not as bad as one of the books that I read last week as Phantom Stranger. But this is a series that's just very disappointing, and there's no place for this book. It has done nothing to rejuvenize Blue Beetle. It's another failed attempt by DC to rejuvenize Blue Beetle, and that's really sad to see, because I do see potential in Blue Beetle. But there was no any hype around it. There was no enthusiasm around it. It just felt very bland and uninteresting. And I'm kind of glad to see it go away. So with that, I'm going to give Blue Beetle issue number 13 a 1 out of 5. Now on to the last book for this video, and that is Green Lantern's The New Guardians. If you haven't been watching my videos, I have not liked at all any of the issues that came out this month for Rise of the Third Army. Now, the only issue I liked from that was the Prelude, which was the annual for Green Lantern. That was the only good one. Since then, I felt like the Third Army has been very underdeveloped and just nothing really there. And then the way that the Guardians are portrayed, I felt that they felt really cartoonish and very... You can't see why that the Green Lanterns don't know what's going on, because they've been blamed by how different they've been acting. So the storyline is that through the 12 issues, Kyle Rayner now has control of any of the colors in the emotion spectrum. He can do any of them. So in this one, we got Atrocitus trying to teach Kyle on how to use the color red and use rage. So we see Atrocitus taking him to the grave of his girlfriend. Now, if you did not know, his girlfriend is the one who died that created the slogan or the phrase fridging, where a female was put in a fridge all cut up for Kyle Rayner to see. And her only way that she was invented was just to die. So that was where we got fridging. Now, the best part in here was when you see Atrocitus trying to get rage into Kyle's heart. And you see some glimpses of Kyle when he was before the Green Lantern days with his girl. And you see Atrocitus just beating the living hell out of him. And through the issue, we get a little bit of backstory, and then what's going on now. Backstory, till now. It was just so cool to see that type of storytelling. And you really felt why this is not working the way the Atrocitus thought it would work. But when Atrocitus goes and decides, I know exactly what's going to take and put Kyle into a rage, and put rage into his heart, that was when the book was just like, whoa. Where Atrocitus takes Kyle to this place where a little boy is about to be killed. And the father jumps in and says, you kill me and let my son live. that point was just amazing to just read. And I was so enthralled, and to see Kyle's reaction to the events that happened, it's just so sad, and just you felt for him. And then you got the rage in yourself by reading it and how good the storytelling was. You had the rage in your heart. You were just like, you go, Kyle. You gonna beat this living hell out of these guys. So there's a lot of good here. Really the bad parts is that there's one thing I really hate about what DC's doing right now, is that they have stated that they're not going to have any comic be late coming out. So what that means is that a lot of times we get 2 artists on one book, and sometimes it works out. A lot of times it doesn't. In this book, it doesn't. We get 2 artists. We get the regular artist, and he's doing a really good job. You know, stuff you've seen before. And then look at how Atrocities is right here. And then the second artist comes in. Let me try to find it. And he makes Atrocities look something like this. And it's so different from the previous artist that it's very distracting. And it's distracting right away, especially when you first see what's going on. And another picture I gotta show you guys is this one of Kyle when he gets his rage on. Really cool stuff. So I didn't like the 2 artists on there. And another bad thing is I see him for this whole entire series. If it's going to be like a 3 or 4 issue long one of him learning how to use all the color spectrum, I'm going to be getting bored very quickly. So I'm hoping that they get 3 color rings in there in the next issue so that Kyle can finally kick the ass out of the Guardians. And this is a book that I felt like it actually had direction and wasn't as stomped on or being on hold for the Third Army storyline. And it felt very natural for what the story that's been told in the Green Lantern's New Guardians. So, some really cool stuff here. A lot better than Green Lantern that came out this month and Green Lantern Corps. So if you're a Green Lantern fan and been worried about the series, just know Green Lantern, the New Guardians, has something there for you to like. Even though there is some bad, there's still a lot more good outweighing the bad. So in the end, I'm going to give Green Lantern, the New Guardians, issue number 13, a 3 out of 5. And this has been one of the series that I've actually, it's been decent compared to the other ones. I think Jeff Johns, as I've said on his Justice League, I don't think he's the same Jeff Johns that we've seen in the past years. Before the New 52, I thought he's had some good stories. But then, now in the New 52, I think he's bored. Or he just needs a new change of pace. Maybe he needs to go on to a different book. Or, because he did try a different book with Justice League. I don't feel like it worked. Maybe he needs to do something else. Get off of Green Lantern. Get off of Justice League. Maybe go and sit out for a little while. Get your head on straight. And then come back and give us some great stories. Or just write what you did for Batman Earth 1. Just do those type of stories. Do some stuff that you want to do and have it come out as a full volume so we get the full story. Because that's one thing I've been thinking that's the biggest problem with Jeff Johns. Is that when he tells a story, he tells it for 6 issues or 8, 9. And the starting is just so slow. But you don't get that slowness with you read a whole volume because you're reading it as a whole deal, a complete set. And that's what I'm just going to ramble on about Jeff Johns. Sorry about that. I love the guy. I just don't feel like he's been given his best efforts. So this is David from the Comic Fix. And if you're a new viewer, subscribe up top. If you're an old viewer, like on the bottom. And tell me, what should be some ideas for some contests? Because I'm definitely thinking about giving away Wonder Woman Volume 1. And maybe some other books. Go get some Walking Dead. Go and give that away, you know. I want to get viewers. And one of the ways to get viewers is say contests. So tell your friends. There's going to be contests here for some free comics. And every single thing like that. And I'm also going to be giving away my digital free download for some of the Marvel books I'm going to be giving. Like when I do my pick of the week, I'm going to be giving away my digital copy of Uncanny Avengers. So if you want that book, put on there, I want the book. So, with that being said, this is David, and I'll see you guys later.